I am Miss Sarah from Oxford Library, and today I'm going to show you how to make your very own kite. So this is my example kite that I made in our video. I'm going to show you step by step how to make it, so that way you can actually go outside and fly it on your own. These are using materials found in the kit provided by Oxford Library, but if you don't have a kit, feel free to follow along and see how to make it using materials you might already have at home or that you can easily access. So let's get started. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to spread out our plastic sheet onto a flat surface and try to just smooth it out as much as we can. You're not going to get rid of all the wrinkles, but the smoother it is, the easier our next steps will be. Just a reminder, this plastic sheet is very fragile or delicate. So just be really careful when you're handling it because you don't want to accidentally poke a hole in it or scratch it and then potentially not be able to use it. That being said, if you do poke a hole in it or scratch it, just some regular tape right over it should do the trick and it'll still work. This isn't a kite that's meant to last forever, but just a kite that's meant to teach us about kites in the first place and how to fly them. And also the fun of making one yourself. So I have my plastic sheet all spread out. What I'm also going to do right now before I get started is each of your kits has a straw with some duct tape wrapped around it. Again, it probably doesn't look like the prettiest duct tape job, but it'll do the trick. So duct tape is really the best kind of tape we want to use for this project because it's really strong and it's not going to lift up, even when it's up in the air with the wind. So we brought duct tape for you guys just in case you don't have it at home. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to start unraveling my tape and making little pieces for it. So that way I don't have to stop each time during my process of making my kite. If I have my tape just hanging out here on the edge of my table, then I can just quickly grab it, stick it on when I need to. So I'm going to do this, and I'm simply lifting it up and just unraveling it like this. Okay, and then if I have to, I can spread it out a little bit, just like that. So I'll meet you when I'm done this process. So I got all my tape off, and I ripped them into 7 pieces of tape. So that's how many pieces we're going to need at least for this project. So while you're unraveling your tape, try and do 7 pieces. They don't have to be very big. But now that I have my tape ready and my plastic sheet is all laid out, we're ready for our next step. I am going to take my 2 wooden rods. I'm going to first start with my longer rod, and I'm going to stick it vertically, so right up and down like this, in the middle of my plastic sheet. Then I'm going to take my shorter wooden rod, and I am going to place it horizontal against my vertical one, and I'm going to do it a little less than halfway down, so it's going to look like a cross, okay? So you don't want it in the middle like this, you want it more higher like that. And I'm just going to do all of that right here along my plastic sheet. Perfect. So my wooden rods are perpendicular. And the shorter rod is meeting the longer rod in the middle. Okay? Once we lay out our wooden rods like this, I'm going to take a dark colored marker and I'm going to start to draw a diamond around my wooden rods. So for this step, if you want to use a ruler or something with a straight edge to help you really make it straight and look nice, you definitely can. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it and see how it goes. But the important thing is that I'm not doing it right at the ends of my wooden rods. I'm going to give it a little bit of room so that way I can know for sure that I've made it big enough. Okay, so I'm just gonna start right here at the top corner like this, or maybe right here so you can see. Giving it a little bit of space, I'm just gonna go right up there, down here, gonna meet to the end down here. Perfect. Gonna do the same thing over here. And if you have to draw over something, that's okay too, because we're going to be cutting this out. So, perfect. So I'll lift this up a little bit so you can see. So here you can see I kind of went too far over and I had to redraw. And that's okay, because this is your kite. And it's going to look how it's going to look. So I'm going to take my wooden rods off now. And this next step is optional. You don't have to do it. But if you'd like to take your dark colored marker and draw something in the blank space of your kite, like maybe I'm going to do a smiley face, or maybe a flower or something else cool that you want to have, go for it. But just a reminder that this is delicate plastic. So don't really press hard on it and potentially rip it. Try to aim for something really simple and quick, just so you keep your sheet safe. So I have that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut out my diamond. Okay? So I'll meet you here when I'm done cutting it out. So here is my diamond all cut out. And I'm going to make sure that I put the side I drew my picture on, if you decided to draw one, on the other side. So this is a thin enough plastic that it's going to show up on both sides, but I'm just going to make sure that the side it's going to look the darkest on is on the bottom, because our next step is going to be taping stuff over it. I also want to mention to keep any scraps that you have from cutting out your diamond. We are going to use this later, so let's just put those aside for now. And I cut my diamond very carefully, knowing that this plastic can easily rip, so I was very careful. You may need a grown-up's help, which is a-okay. So I have my kite laid out again, flat like this, my diamond. I'm going to bring back my wooden rods, and I'm going to place them exactly how I had them the first time. So I'm going to make sure that the ends of my rods are at the corners of my diamonds. Perfect. You can see it here. And now I'm going to start to tape down the ends of my rods to the plastic. But please note that you need to leave about an inch between the tape and the very end of your rod. So that way we just know that it's not, that there's enough room. Okay, so I'm going to do about an inch, just laying this tape on nice and quick, knowing it doesn't have to be perfect. About an inch, leaving it right there. Perfect. And these ends as well. I'm going to hold that down and then tape it. Holding it down and taping. Perfect. And then right here in the middle where my two sticks meet, I'm going to add some tape too, just to make sure that it's really secure. So I'm just going to kind of lift it up, making sure I'm not getting tape on the plastic. And I'm just going to wrap it around as best as I can, and maybe pinching some sides together too to make sure that as best as I can. Perfect. So at this point, if you think that you've left too much plastic out from the sides of your wooden stick, you can go ahead and trim it down a little bit. Again, being very careful But now your sticks are in place, so they're not going to move, and you can kind of have a better gauge of how much plastic to leave. For me personally, I think that this is going to be okay. Okay, that's for me. If you want a little bit shorter, that's okay. Because now the important part is that we have our wooden rods taped down. Okay, we're ready for our next step. Right here on our shorter rod, wooden rod, where our tape is, I'm going to make a hole in the middle of the tape. So I'm going to put a little black dot where I'm going to put my hole so I can better show you where to put yours. Okay, so it's in the middle of the tape, just like that. And I'm just going to use my scissors. Just like that. So it's really important that we do the holes in the tape, especially in the middle of the tape, because that's going to help it not to rip more as it's flying in the air. The tape kind of stops it because it's strong. I've made my holes. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my yarn and I am going to measure out a length of yarn that is 2 times the length of my wooden rod. So I'm just laying my yarn against my shorter wooden rod like this, and I'm just going to do a quick snip right here. Just like that. So now that leaves me with this. So taking one end of our yarn, I'm going to thread it through my hole right here I just made, from the bottom side up. So from the side without the wooden rods, I'm gonna stick it through. And you may need to make your hole bigger, that's okay. As long as it's there we go. So I've gotten it through like here. And then I'm going to take this end and I'm going to tie it against my shorter rod right here, as close as I can get to it. Okay, so I'm pulling this around, giving it one knot, tying it around, giving it 2 knots. I suggest at least 3. But however many you think, it's gonna keep it secure. Okay? So I have 2 knots right there. I think that's good for mine right here. You can see it. And then I'm going to tape it down. Again, trying my best not to get tape on the plastic because I don't want to rip it. So maybe you need a really little piece of tape, but just enough that we can tape it right there to our wooden stick. Perfect. So now with my other end of the yarn, I'm going to do the same thing on this other side. So I'm going to thread it through the bottom, pull it up, tie it to my rod, then tape it down. So I've just done both sides. Tied them to the rod, taped them down. So now I have this hanging off the side, on the side of the kite where I don't have the wooden rods. So it's just hanging out like this. So I'm going to flip it over, put it on the side where I have my picture. With the remaining yarn that you have, we're going to find one end of it, and let's start to start to ravel your yarn around our cardboard rectangle. This might take a little bit, but ravel it until you have about 1 foot hanging off still. So I'll meet you when I'm done mine. So I finished raveling again along my cardboard rectangle, and I have about 1 foot left hanging off. So this end of my yarn, that's from my cardboard rectangle, I am going to tie in the middle of my loop here that's on my kite. So I'm just gonna tie it, and again, give it a good couple knots, maybe 3, and then, let's see, let me see, I'm gonna do 2, and 3 knots. So it should look like this at the end. You have it tied in the middle, and it's, if you pull it like this, it's an equal balance between the 2 sides. So this will be the yarn that you use to fly your kite. So now there's only one thing left to do, and it's probably the most important thing of your kite. We need to make a tail. So the tail is really important because that's what weighs down this bottom side of your kite, and that's what gives your kite the lift it needs because of that difference in weight, okay? There is a page in your kit that kind of explains the science about how kites fly a little bit more, but we're going to bring back these scrap pieces of plastic sheet that we have, and you can really make your tail however you'd like. So what I like to do is I am going to try and see if I can find a long length here, and I'm just going to cut a strip off of this. Okay, so from what I've seen, it doesn't really matter how thick your tail is. You want it to be at least as long as your kite, but if you want to make it longer, you can do that. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy, so this is good for me. This is what I'm going to do. So once you have your tail, if you need to cut smaller lengths of plastic and tape them together, that's a-okay. And here, I actually miscounted. I need 8 pieces of tape. But this can use pretty much regular tape because it's just taping it here to the plastic. Right here at the bottom end, below our stick, or even maybe to our stick if you want. And then that kind of drags it down like that. If you want to decorate it more, you can. Maybe add some bows like you see on TV or stickers or something. But it's just going to go right here. And then that's all to it. Once you have your kite diamond, your tail, and your yarn, you're good to go. Thanks for watching this video on how to make your kite. So now you've done the easy part. Yeah, believe it or not, making the kite is the easy part. Now you have to go outside and try to fly it. You're going to need a pretty windy day and a big open space. Check out papers in your kit that tell you a little bit more about ways that you can learn to fly a kite, as well as about the science behind why kites fly at all. If you have any questions, always feel free to ask me here at Oxford Library, and we'd love to see some videos or pictures of you guys flying the kites you've made. Otherwise, we hope to see you at the library soon. Bye!